Hello everyone, here in this practice we are going to learn how to define unique and primary key constraints during creating a table. Here we have two practices. Create a table called instructor with 4 columns: instructor ID, instructor name, email, and the last column faculty underscore name. So let's create a table. Create table, and the name of the table instructor. We can just copy it here, open brace, and specify the columns definition. We have here instructor ID as number 9, and we have here instructor name varchar 250, and we have also email varchar 240, and we have also faculty name varchar 240. So this is the definition of the table. We have 4 columns: instructor ID, instructor name, email, and faculty underscore name. And then close here the brace of the table. As one of the requirements here, email default test at test.edu. So we can define a default option here for the email, default test at test.edu. That means if you insert a record in the instructor table and you don't specify a value for the email, test at test.edu will be used in this case instead of using null value. Here also one of the requirements, define instructor ID as a primary key. So we can put here primary key, and also instructor name not null. So we can put here instructor name not null, and email also unique. So we can put here unique for the email. So here we have a table contains 4 columns and contains also 3 constraints: primary key, not null, and unique key. Primary key ensures uniqueness plus not null, while unique key ensures only uniqueness, but you can use null value during insert statement. Here we have 2 options for the constraint name. We can either specify a name for the constraint, or we can let Oracle generate a name for the constraint by using sys underscore c and then 6 digits unique number. We can define a name for the constraint by using constraint and then name of the constraint, for example instructor underscore ID underscore primary key. And here we can also name the constraint for unique constraint, for example email underscore unique. Once finished, we can run the create statement. As we can see, table instructor created. We can check the structure of the table by using describe command, or we can go to tables here, click refresh, and this is our table. Just one click here. So as we can see, we have 4 columns here: instructor ID, instructor name, email, and faculty name, and this is the data type of each column, and this is the default value. In this case we define test at test.edu for the email, and this is allow null or not allow null. As we can see, instructor ID allow null no, instructor name allow null no, because we define instructor ID as a primary key. Primary key ensures uniqueness and not null, so here it is not null. And also we define not null constraints for the instructor underscore name. If you go to here constraints, as we can see, we have 3 constraints: the unique key constraint, the primary key constraint, and the check constraints. As we said before, not null constraints is considered as a check constraint. So as we can see here, this is the name of the constraint. This is the name email underscore uq, and this is the name of the primary key constraint, instructor underscore ID underscore pk, and this is the name of the not null constraints. As we said before, if you don't specify a name for the constraint, Oracle will generate automatically a name using sys underscore c and then 6 digits unique number. Let's go back to the practice. Here the next practice, test the constraints by inserting sample data. We can use insert into name of the table, which is instructor in this case, values, and specify values for the instructor ID, for example 1, for the instructor name, for example Tom, for the instructor email, for example tom at test.edu, and we can put, for example, here the faculty name, for example IT. Then run the insert statement. As we can see, 1 row inserted. If you select from the table instructor, for example, so we have only one record, instructor ID 1, instructor name Tom, Tom at test.edu, and the faculty name is IT. If you try to insert another record using the instructor ID 1 in this case and put here Sam, and for the email Sam at test.edu, the insert statement will fail because primary key constraint will be violated in this case. As we can see, unique constraint instructor underscore ID underscore PK, which is the primary key, violated. If you try to put a null value here, also it will fail. As we can see, cannot insert null into instructor ID because the primary key ensures uniqueness and not null at the same time. Let's try to select from the table. The table, as we can see, contains one record, Tom at test.com. Let's try to create a record and use the same email as an existing record. For example, Tom at test.edu. Here, as we can see, unique key constraint. You cannot insert a new record with an email Tom at test.edu because Tom at test.edu is already used by another record because there is a unique key defined as the email. If you try to put here a null value, the statement will not fail in this case. So as we can see, one row inserted. Try to select from the table. So we have two records here, Tom at test.edu and null for the second record. The unique key ensures that every value in a column be a unique. Means no two rows in a table can have duplicate values in a column where unique key constraint is defined. So you cannot insert two records having the same email, but the unique key can accept null value. So if you try to insert another record here and put 3, for example, and the name here, for example, John, and try to insert the statement, as we can see, one row inserted. Try to select from the table. We have here 3 columns. Null value here is not equal to null value. So we can insert a null value in a column defined as unique. But if you try to put a value for the email column, the email value must be unique. So in this practice, we learned how to define unique and primary key constraints during creating a table. I hope this video was informative for you, and thank you for watching.